by May 12, 2013. To receive further information and for application instructions, please go to www.whitehouse.gov/internships.
Hi, I'm NCC student Matt DeGuano. Come listen to me on In the Clutch, Tuesdays 11 to 12.
The voice of Nassau Community College, WHPC, Garden City, New York.
Next on WHPC, music is therapy. Since the beginning of time, music has had a profound effect on human behavior. Music therapist Larry Carlson discusses how music affects our health. It's all coming up next on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College.
Welcome to Music is Therapy. My name is Larry Carlson, registered music therapist. Since the beginning of time, music has had a profound effect on human behavior. It has allowed us to tap into emotion and to express ourselves in endless ways. As a nonverbal means of communication, music can help heal, calm, make us happy, and release anger. Music is Therapy looks to artists and professionals as we seek to empower self-expression and connect the extraordinary healing power of music. Sit back as we begin our journey, as we discover what music can do for you. To have a belief that the creative arts can make a difference in one's life has been explored and implemented since the beginning of time. Therapeutically, the arts help us express in a nonverbal and verbal manner. To allow what's inside to reveal itself, to create a feeling of freedom through expression, is an essential part of the arts itself. Whether it be music, painting, dance, drama, poetry, photography, the interpretation of art is to go inside and to allow the imagination, in its pure form, to come to life. My special guest for today's show is Erica Joy. Not only is she an entertainer, she organizes and helps others connect in a forum that supports and creates a freedom of expression as well as opportunities. As a photographer and musician, Erica is here to discuss the artist within as she seeks to make a difference in others as they showcase their talents. Welcome, Erica Joy, to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Larry?
I'm great. You know, it's been almost a year since we've done our first show. I think it was May of last year.
It was.
You know, and it's been a journey for you. Mm-hmm. And, of course, a lot of things have happened with me. But I want to, before we start talking about the exciting event that you have going on April the 27th, on a personal note, when did your passion for the arts begin?
My passion of the arts began when I was very young. My parents instilled music in me from the time before I could write. I was playing piano. Mm-hmm. I was always singing. I was just I never enjoyed drawing as much as I did music growing up, I should start with. That was something that came later. Mm-hmm. But growing up, I loved playing the piano. And as time went on, I loved playing flute. I found clarinet, guitar, and my favorite became jazz flute.
Wow, jazz flute. Yeah. Now, talk about your connection to music, and did you feel it helped you during your youth?
It definitely helped me when I was a youth. I think that when you're a youth, you're going through a lot of different changes, especially as a female, and I know I had a lot of anxiety. You know, the stress with school, the stress socially, and being able to express myself musically made all of the difference. And I think that was the appeal of jazz flute to me when I discovered it, was because it gave me the chance to really let loose creatively and not follow a script that I'd followed my entire life.
Wow, that's really that's put very, very well. You know, following the script like arithmetic, and you got to follow the plans there. And I would think that not following the script might indicate some sort of improvisation, where you can let go and be free.
And that was exactly the appeal, the improvisation. That's scary at first. I know it took a very long time to get the hang of it, but once you get the hang of it.
Now, music is within your family, and do you have some influences growing up? I think you talked about your uncle, and
Yes.
as a matter of fact, your uncle is going to be, I think one of your uncles is going to be performing on the 27th.
My uncle is going to be performing. He performs right now at events, weddings, parties. But he's played music for me my entire life. Every family event, he always brought his guitar around. He was always playing songs for me and my cousin and my sister, and we'd always sing along. And it was my favorite part of family holidays.
Yeah, yeah. So there are influences, and your family made a big difference to you. Now, something interesting we talked about in terms of, I've done shows on this, as a matter of fact, where we talk about pets. Now, you have a puppy. It's a little guy, right?
Well, he's not so little.
Well, yeah. You say your puppy is affected by different types of music. What kind of observations did you note with him?
Well, I noticed that when I put on classical music, which I discovered actually by putting on, I YouTubed calming music for dogs. And what you find when you type that in is predominantly classical music, a lot of Mozart. And when you put it on, I see such a difference. He will go, my dog is very hyper, very crazy. I love his
kind of
energy.
dog, yeah?
He's a pit bull mix.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
And he will be running around crazy with the TV on. And you don't realize how anxious he is until you put on something that calms him. And when I'm getting ready in the morning, he does get very anxious, and I think part of it is that we rescued him, and he came with his own set of issues. But when I put on music, he stops following me around. He stops acting nutty. He'll sit down, relax on the floor, and just go to sleep.
And this is classical music.
This is classical music.
It's sort of like, I don't know how hungry I am until you feed me.
Exactly. Exactly.
About a year ago, we got together. We discussed your first event, and on this show, and I never really heard what happened. In terms of the connections you made to the artists and how they react, and maybe you can touch base on that before we talk about the new event.
Yes, definitely. The event went incredibly well. It was definitely a learning experience for myself and the other artists. It was interesting seeing how everything unfolded. I was kind of unsure when I went into it because there were a lot of new artists. I wasn't sure who was going to really need that push when it came to that point. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the other artists. And since then, I've been able to see a lot of them that were maybe scared to share that ended up sharing a lot with me and a lot with the audience. Really blossomed since then.
Now, the original event was to bring new artists so that they can express themselves. Is that what it was?
It had medias of all type. And it was all young artists that had never showcased before.
So you had a couple of scared puppies
I did.
in the audience that
I
night.
did. Musicians as well that came in
Yeah.
that were very, very scared of performing.
Did you? What about the connections you made through that? Or did you find that the people who showcased their work for the first time were able to connect with one another, and the same with yourself? Any kind of stories you have that came out of the whole show?
Yes. Well, there were several artists that knew each other coincidentally through different circles, and they came up to me and said, I didn't know you knew this person. I went to school with this person, but not for art. I didn't know they were artists. And that was very interesting to me. One of my close friends said that, and so now I became better friends with that other artist. There was a few artists that had never sold any work that had the chance to sell
You're talking
work.
about paintings?
Paintings. Drawings they had done. I have a friend that paints on masks. That painted a mask and that was sold.
And there's body painting too, right?
There was supposed to be. It didn't.
It didn't happen.
Didn't work out that way. But I think that was good. It was okay.
Right. Did you exhibit any of your photography?
I did. The problem with having and hosting an event is that I lost sight of showcasing myself a little bit, which I don't know was the worst thing because I enjoyed the event to the fullest, and I think it was almost better that I was able to enjoy the event a little bit more.
Absolutely.
I spent so much time setting up every other artist that I didn't really have time to put together my work, but I wasn't too upset about it.
Kind of reminds me of going to an event, taking all these pictures, and for, not being able to enjoy the actual show because you're so engaged in being part of it. But when you can sit back and enjoy the other artists and the connection, like you say, that you make, music, art, dance, any kind of art seems to connect people. Do you agree?
I agree. I had people coming up to me all night, all these artists, saying there was a while there weren't too many guests, outsiders coming in, but amongst themselves, no one even noticed because all the artists were walking around, talking to each other, learning so much from each other that they all, got something out of it.
Did you find that people who were scared to perform after they performed, they were less scared the next time? Did you find that it built their confidence?
I think for the most part I did find that because it turned into a little bit of an open mic towards the end. People were getting out of their shell and saying, oh, I'll do one more song. There was one person that I wish that he had performed. He spent all night practicing, but he was the youngest artist there. And I think that he felt good in what he had done. He'd been practicing all night and people walking by had heard him. So I wasn't hurt that he didn't perform, but I understood a little bit that you can't push people too far.
Are these mostly young performers you're talking about?
Most of them were young, but he was about 16 years old. He was by far the youngest.
Okay, so 16 into the 20s?
It was about, the average age I would say was about 17 to 23, 24.
And you're in your 20s as well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're not going to give everybody your exact age, but you're a young lady and you're a photographer and musician and that kind of. Now, what do you think people get so uptight about performing where what happens is once they perform they feel so much better? And maybe you could your advice on people who get scared, who just don't want to do it, but from experience after hearing them that they're able to open up. How do you convince someone who doesn't want to take a chance to take a chance?
My biggest advice is to do it for yourself first. Say what you think you need to say. Pretend you're talking to your best friend, for your parents, and once you start getting a reaction, once you start seeing people's reactions and feeling everything out, you do feel better about it.
Okay. Now, on the 7th, April 7th, it's a Saturday. It's a new event. What's the idea of the event? And maybe you can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, this event is going to be live painting. So it's a lot of street artists that are going to bring canvas. They're very well established, amazing artists. Some have been commissioned to do murals and whatnot. So it's giving them a venue, it's giving them a space to display their work for the public, because I think it's amazing to get to watch art done right in front of you.
So they're going to actually be doing or painting.
Yes.
Is it painting?
It's painting. It's a lot of using markers and a lot of paint. No spray painting, it's indoors.
Right.
But
and so you're going to have about how many people coming to this?
It's artists. There's about 6 artists.
Right.
And they're going to be doing time slots throughout the night, so everyone gets their share of time.
Okay, now you're doing a fundraiser for the CAE, which is the Center for Arts Education. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, the Center for Arts Education is an organization based out of New York City, which supports the New York City public school art programs by donating money, supplies, finding volunteers, finding famous artists to come in and do programs, just all around supporting the arts programs in New York City, which seem to be struggling.
Yeah, and this is the thing, the arts in public schools, you feel it's very important to keep the arts in public schools, and evidently some of the arts have been taken out of public schools.
Yes.
Now, how do you think there's a connection between the arts and how the students gain in their academia, their other studies? Is there a connection between the music, the art, that helps the student do the other studies that they normally go to school for?
I do. I think the same way a student that's geared towards doing math and science as their strong suit gets confidence in studying that, a student that predominantly is good at art needs the chance to let their brain develop the way that they're geared towards developing.
Okay.
To give them more confidence in every other subject.
Okay, so the brain develops. I believe in this too. We've done a lot of studies on this, that the arts can